Brace yourself. Get it passed up anytime now. Collect yourself. Things will never be the same in this sad, sad world. Walk around a lot a bit, trying to make the pieces fit to a puzzle with a million missing pieces. When I'm feeling fine is when I discover that I'm afraid to blow my cover, and there's something very wrong with this. So slip back in your hole.
Hey everybody, don't worry about Landon and Sooty there, they don't matter. So I have devastating news and good news. The devastating news is that this is our last day directly engaging with the thought of Aristotle for the first semester, for the Intro to Philosophy half of the course. The wonderful news is Aristotle will be back with us in the second semester, Introduction to Ethics, because I'm going to use Aristotle's virtue ethics as our main approach to ethics in that half of the course. I'll introduce you to other systems of ethics that are much more modern, deontology, utilitarianism, cultural relativism, but I'm going to sort of unapologetically advocate for Aristotle's virtue ethics. I won't be advocating for particular positions on ethical issues. I'm not going to tell you what I think about this, that, or the other controversial issue, but I will argue for the superiority of Aristotle's approach over more modern approaches, and you'll probably hear me call the more modern approaches gutter ethics several times. Before we say so long for now to Aristotle, I want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of Aristotle's ethics, which we'll dive into in much more depth in the second half of the course. So first, we're gonna go back in time, one more little look into the archives, the greatest hits from the year 2020. With a little clip from something I recorded from my humanities class back when everybody was working from home during the COVID quarantine in 2020. And then we'll reconnect and talk some more about it.
This is a good taco. This is a bad taco. What's the difference between the two? Well, if you ask Aristotle, you'll remember that every being has what's called a final cause. The final cause is the goal or purpose or meaning of that being. It doesn't come to the being from the outside. The being has its final cause just because of the kind of being that it is. What's the final cause of a taco? Well, it's to provide nutrition. You eat it and it builds up your body. And it's to provide pleasure. Tacos are good. They taste good. You get joy and happiness from eating them. A being is good or bad for Aristotle depending on how well it fulfills or lives out its final cause, its purpose. The taco on the left is successful at accomplishing its purpose. And yes, it's almost as if the taco wants to provide nutrition and to give pleasure. Aristotle doesn't think a taco actually has a mind, but it is as if every being, even a taco, has a goal, has something that it, quote unquote, wants to do. The taco on the left has succeeded, so it is good. The taco on the right has failed, and so it is bad. This is a good haircut.
This is a bad haircut. What's the purpose or final cause of a haircut? Well, part of it is to keep cool and keep the hair out of your face. So any haircut that takes enough off meets that purpose. But the main purpose, I think, for most of us in a haircut is to look good. With that final cause of haircut, I think all would agree that this is a bad haircut.
This is a good person. This is a bad person.
Hopefully you're picking up on the pattern here now. Aristotle would say that the reason Dr. King is a good person and Hitler is a bad person is because Dr. King successfully lived out his purpose or his goal as a human being, his final cause. Hitler, on the other hand, failed as a human being. And that's not just because it's not at all because he lost the war. It's not that kind of success or failure. Even if he had won the war, even when he was winning, when he was at the peak of his power and his own plans were being successful, he was still a failure as a human being. He was still failing to live out his purpose that comes. So, a family has a pet dog, and family has a 5-year-old kid. And the 5-year-old kid steps on the dog's foot and hurts the dog. Yip, 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 yip. So the dog snaps and bites the 5-year-old. Is that a bad dog?
No.
No. Because what is a dog? What is the telos, is Aristotle's term? It's the final cause, it's also the nature. What is the form dogness? It's the pattern by which matter is organized such that it is, among other things, an omnivorous predator. That's what it is to be a dog. A dog who bites a 5-year-old who has harmed it is not a bad dog. It might be a bad pet, right? Because the form of petness is something different. But the dog that bites the kid is not a bad dog. The dog who bites the kid is successful at being what it is supposed to be. Successful at being what it is. That's how Aristotle defines goodness and badness, or goodness and evil when it comes to stuff, but also when it comes to people. The good person is the person who successfully lives out his or her final cause, his or her nature, who successfully lives up to what it is to be human. For Aristotle, do we remember what is the final cause for humans? What is the purpose or goal?
Happiness.
Happiness, yes. According to our great philosopher, happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. But doesn't that raise a problem? Do we know who Jeffrey Dahmer was?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did Jeffrey Dahmer like to do?
Eat people.
Kill people.
Kill people and then eat them. All right. So if Jeffrey Dahmer had a particularly fruitful night at the bar and he seduced somebody and brought him home and killed him and eaten him, he'd probably put a big smile on his face. Jeffrey Dahmer was probably happy that night, experiencing the emotion of happiness. Do you think Aristotle would think that Jeffrey Dahmer was good because he was happy? That he was successful because he was happy? No. This happiness is not the fleeting, passing, emotional experience of being happy, which is a good thing. He's not against that. But that's not the happiness he's talking about. Over here on the wall, I have one of my students a couple years ago gave me this Nirvana record, Nirvana in Utero. Rewind the clock to 1993 when I bought my first CD player. In Utero was one of the CDs I bought with the player on that day. Nirvana has always, well, since then anyway, has always been my favorite band. Who's the lead singer of Nirvana? Remember his name?
Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain. So I was considering inviting Mr. Cobain to come speak to us. But guess what? Guess what I found out?
He ate a bullet for dinner.
Yeah, Mr. Cobain can't come speak to us because Mr. Cobain is dead because Kurt Cobain committed suicide. But if you do a Google image search for Kurt Cobain, you can find plenty of pictures of him with a big fat smile on his face. Right? he experienced the emotion of happiness like any normal person. Anytime someone, gave him a pizza, I'm sure he smiled about it. And he also really liked heroin. And so when he got heroin cheap, I'm sure he smiled about it. That's not the happiness that Aristotle's talking about. This happiness, the happiness that makes us successful and therefore good people, is the happiness that is a whole personal sense of contentment that we experience when we can look at ourselves and say, it is good that I am me. It is good that I am. A sense of whole personal contentment with oneself is the happiness that he is getting at. And in order to achieve that, attain that happiness, according to Aristotle, we must live in such a way, which may make our behavior choices in such a way, we must structure our relationships in such a way that they reflect more and more, better and better, the form of humanness or humanity, that which it is to be human. Somebody in sixth period yesterday asked, well, what if the dog doesn't bite the 5-year-old? Is it therefore a bad dog? I said no, because the form of dogness is not that a dog must kill and eat everything that it encounters, right? But don't picture it, just think of the fact, don't picture it. If the dog had sat there complacently and let the 5-year-old beat it to death without ever defending itself, in that case it would be a bad dog. That might make it a really good pet, right? You'd hate for it to happen, but maybe part of the form of petness is never eat my children. That's not too much to ask for, okay? But it would not be a good dog if it allowed itself to be beaten to death without defending itself. There's an insight to be gleaned from this to keep in mind, especially when we move into the ethics half of the course after Christmas, that to accurately determine how to choose our behaviors and structure our lives so that they reflect the form of humanness, we must be grounded in reality. If I'm attempting to be something other than what the form of humanness is, if I am living in a dream world, if I'm Kurt Cobain and I'm chasing the dragon of heroin as if that is the path to happiness, as if that is reality, no amount of heroin can make me happy because that's not reality. That's not how the world is actually structured. Aristotle, who devoted his life to turning away from floating ideas in the sky and to examining reality as it actually is going to be no less rooted in that which is real when he talks about good and evil, when he talks about moral choices. Importantly, refreshingly, Aristotle's ethics is not based on rules. He is not the one to turn to for a list of you better do this, you better not do that, you better do this, you better not do that. If Aristotle were here with us today, that would be the only way you could have a better teacher. If Aristotle were with us here today, he would say, rules are for children. When you're 3 years old and you're being taught that it's good to share your toys, perhaps the only way you can understand that is if parents say, it's good to share your toys because I said so. But the hope is that by getting the child into the habit of sharing the toy, eventually that habit will become a second nature for the child. And then the child will no longer share toys because mom said so. The child will share toys because that's what you do. And then the child, who maybe the first time it had to share a toy was crying, no, mine, 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 then the child will begin to experience joy, happiness from the act of sharing a toy. In which case what happened is what started out as a rule, do this because, actually altered what the child was. It transformed the child into more of a human being, into a more accurate reflection of that form, that pattern of humanness. Instead of being based on rules, Aristotle's ethics will be based on, here's big fancy Aristotelese, the Greek word eudaimonia. We can call it the good life. We also translate it often as human flourishing. Maybe we've heard that term before. Aristotle borrows the term from botany, from the science of caring for plants. A plant is flourishing when it is growing leaves and growing tall and producing fruit and spreading its seeds and producing other trees from that. A plant is flourishing when it's successfully doing that which it is to be a plant. When it's successfully living out its plantness. Ethics, morality, good and evil for Aristotle are about us doing that, becoming the best versions of ourselves possible, living the best and happiest lives possible. When we do that, we're walking the path of virtue. Virtues are habits of positive behavior choices. Not just isolated positive behavior choices, but habits of positive behavior choices that once they become part of what we are, make us more human. And the opposite, vice, those are negative habits of behavior. Not individual negative behaviors, but negative habits of behaviors that when they become part of us, instead of forming us, they deform us. They dehumanize us. Let's take it for a spin. We'll have a whole semester with this, but let's take this with the first spin with some examples. So, Aristotle loved hanging out with his bros. All right? So he's up late all night, or half the night, every night, playing video games with Plato. He never gets enough sleep. He's always yawning in my class. He's always late to school. He never gets his work done on time or at all. He's not making good grades. He's not learning anything because he's just spending all his time every night playing video games with Plato. Is that the good life? Is Aristotle being his best self there? Is he flourishing? No. So do we think, would our advice for him be, Aristotle, you should do the opposite of what you're doing? Henry is shaking his head, yes. And Henry speaks for everybody. Do you speak for everybody, Henry?
I guess.
Yes, Henry always speaks for everybody. Well, let's see. Let's see what the opposite looks like. Aristotle has to get good grades. Aristotle will not settle for anything less than 100% on everything. So Aristotle is up half the night, every night studying, doing homework, reading. He's got to get those grades. He's got to get into the good college. I know it's hard to stay awake, but thankfully there's Monster energy drinks that Aristotle can pound so he can read more and more and study more and more and more. And he's not going to let himself off the hook if he gets a 99. That's not good enough. And it works. He's got really good grades, right? He's almost the top of his class, right? If he didn't go to school with Bettina, he would be the top of his class. But he's so busy with his homework, he hasn't had the time to make friends, much less hang out with his friends. He's got no social life. He's got no meaningful relationships. He's not building any memories. Right? His memories of high school are all going to be stress and Monster energy and paper cuts from books. Well, that's the opposite. Is that flourishing? Is that the good life? No. Note this carefully. So, this habit is a vice. The opposite of a vice is also a vice. For Aristotle, the path of virtue lies in what he calls the golden mean, the moderate path between two extremes. Extremes in either direction. He'll call them extremes of deficiency, you don't have enough of the good, or extremes of excess, are both to be avoided as vicious. We probably knew vicious, the adjective form of vice. We probably heard that before we heard the word vice. The virtuous path, the healthy path, the human path, and the path to happiness can be found in the middle, what he calls the golden mean. Aristotle wakes up every morning and he's just so, I can't go out there. I can't face all those people. I'm just so nervous. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody's judging me. I'm not getting out of bed today. I can't. I'm just going to lay here under the covers. I'm never moving again. I'm just staying right here in this bed where it's safe and warm and cozy and nobody can hurt me and nobody can laugh at me. Aristotle living a good life here? Is he flourishing?
No.
No. You know, if real Aristotle were to walk into PowerPoint Aristotle's bedroom and offer some advice, real Aristotle would say to PowerPoint Aristotle, get your ass out of bed, you're a coward.
Oh.
Maybe you don't want to go to Aristotle for therapy. Maybe you do. Maybe he'll be the only one who will say true things to us. So let's see. Maybe PowerPoint Aristotle decides to do the opposite. So PowerPoint Aristotle's walking down the street, listening to some jams. Kendra, what's Aristotle listening to?
Nirvana.
Nirvana! All right. Aristotle's not so bad after all. Aristotle's listening to Nirvana. But he's kind of caught up in his nirvana. That's easy to do. And he doesn't see that there's a semi-truck.
Oh.
And so Genedris says, hey, Aristotle, look out. There's a semi-truck coming. And Aristotle says, I ain't afraid of no semi-truck. I ain't afraid of nothing. And blam, Aristotle gets run over. And I mean Aristotle explodes. Blood and guts are raining down, hitting all of us in the face. Dolly's in the back puking. Is Aristotle living his best life right there? He's not living any kind of life. He just up and got himself killed. See, this Aristotle has built the habit of the vice of cowardice. This Aristotle has built the opposite vice, the vice we call rashness. The virtue of courage lies in between the two. Courage is not the absence of fear. The courageous person is afraid when there is cause to be afraid, and yet does not allow the fear to prevent her from doing that which rationally needs to be done.
Oh my gosh.
Aristotle's walking a tightrope here. There's a mystery about human nature. This is a mystery that not just philosophers, but storytellers and novelists and prophets and theologians and myth makers have been exploring for 200,000 years. Why is it that the things that are good for us don't always come naturally? Don't always come, that was an uncautious way of saying it, don't come easily. Why is it that the things that make us more human are like walking a tightrope? And the easy path, the path that our instincts seem to draw us toward, the easy path, it's much easier to fall off this rope than it is to walk it. Right? That's called the mystery of iniquity, the wounds of human nature. we experience it. It's why it's easier to just keep scrolling. To just keep scrolling. I know I should sleep. My eyes hurt. I know tomorrow's gonna suck. I should go to sleep. It is good to go to sleep. It is not good for me right now, this minute, to keep scrolling. In fact, I'm not even interested in what I'm looking at. Right? I know that a selfie where you can't see the person's face is not interesting. I know that a 25-second clip of someone lip syncing is not interesting. I know that AI slop, never mind the AI slop in my PowerPoint, is not interesting. I know that the numbers 6 and 7 are not funny, but I can't put the damn thing down. Why is it so hard to be human? Awesome question. But it is. But isn't it worth it to figure out how to stay on that tightrope? Good news is once we put in the work of developing virtuous habits, they become part of us and they stop being difficult. That's a mighty big claim. I will defend it. Like, not for months, because this is just a preview of second semester. It's why we all grew up with our parents or our grandparents or our nannies. Or did anybody have robots in the house, robot maids that raised them? No? Anybody raised by wolves? No? Well, it's why we all grew up being told the famous nursery rhyme of Aristotle and the Three Bears. Aristotle goes into the Three Bears' cabin when the Three Bears aren't there, and he sits at the table, and there's 3 bowls of porridge. Takes a bite of the first one, and what's wrong with the first bowl? It's too, either way, it's too cold. And the second bowl is?
Too hot.
Ah, but the third bowl is what?
Just right.
Just right. That's the golden mean, all right? The extremes in either direction, the extremes of excess, too high a temperature, the extreme of deficiency, too low a temperature. Both are destructive, both are dehumanizing, both are vicious. But in the middle path, the path of just right, lies the life of virtue, and therefore the good life and the happy life. And it gets into it goes in the bedroom, it gets in the first bed. And what's wrong with the first bed? It's too hard. You get to the second bed.
Too soft.
It's too soft. That didn't make so much sense to me when I was young. Now it does. Like when I was young, and growing up in the 80s, people even slept in water beds, and I slept in a water bed. But as I got older, I realized that I cannot sleep on a soft mattress. I don't know. It's certainly not a water bed anymore, and I can't sleep on a soft mattress. My back rebels against it. I need a much more firm mattress, or I can't move in the morning.
You sleep on rocks?
I would rather sleep on the floor than a soft mattress.
Does it remind you of your childhood with the dinosaurs?
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to open the stapler up, and I'm going to blast staplers at your face until you shut it. We got to start over. I lost my train of thought. All right. Socrates would...
The beds. They're too firm.
Oh, the beds. All right.
sleep
What
on
was too...
floors.
Thank you, Nicole. Nicole, thank you. So the third bed is...
Too hard.
No, it's just right.
Just right. Just right. The most common Aristotle quote you'll find on the internet is actually something he didn't say, wrongly attributed to him, but it's a very nice summary of his take on ethics. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle's ethics are very humane, very humanizing, and very empowering. They make us like this statue that is carving ourselves. Every virtuous habit that we build transforms us. And every vicious habit that we build deforms us. But either way, the mallet and the chisel are in our own hands. we become at very least co-creators of ourselves. Moral choices follow the same pattern that addiction follows. I'm not suggesting that every immoral habit is an addiction, just as it follows the same pattern. So, if I light up a cigarette for the first time, oh, it tastes like crap, and it hurts, it sucked, and I put it out, gross. All right, should I have done that? No, but in the grand scheme of things, having picked up a cigarette once and lit it and taken a couple of puffs and thrown it away, does it matter in the grand scheme? No, I know. But what if I go in for the second and the third and the fourth? Well, maybe within the same day, something changes. I become addicted to the cigarette, and now I am no longer someone who smoked. I am a smoker. It has transformed me. It has made me something other than what I am. Let me do the other half of this, and I'll take Megan's question. Now, let's say I'm tempted to tell a lie. I'm tempted to tell a lie because the truth would be humiliating, because the truth would get me in trouble, because the truth would be inconvenient. So it's much easier for me to tell a lie. And so I do. Well, raise your hand if you've never told a lie. Yeah, unless you're an infant, or, I'm born in a coma and say that way or something. Everybody, to say that someone has told a lie is to say nothing, because you've just named everybody on earth. It's different if I say Libby told a lie, whatever. But if I say Libby is a liar, that gets different, right? So we already recognize this. Aristotle's not making anything up, like ever. Doesn't mean he's always right. He's not making anything up. He's observing and he's explaining how he sees reality as it actually is. We know that if I make it a habit to lie, then that makes me something different. It makes me a liar. On the flip side of that, let's say I'm really tempted to tell a lie because it makes my life easier for some reason. And I'm like, no, dang it, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to tell the truth. The first time, it hurts. It sucks. It's like pulling a tooth. I got to own up to something dumb I did. I got to risk getting in trouble. I got to be embarrassed. But I do it again, and again, and again. I let it become a habit, and then it transforms what I am. I'm no longer a guy who told the truth. I become an honest man. I build myself up when I build up these virtuous habits. Megan Van Der Deeds.
Back to the smoking example, why would someone try something bad? Like, they tried smoking and they thought it was bad. Why would they keep going if they already tried it and they didn't like it?
So that's related to that mystery of iniquity that novelists and theologians and playwrights have been wrestling with. There's something in us, a bug in human nature, or something that sometimes makes us do things that are wrong, because of the thrill we get that they're wrong. Right? How many times in this school we got 6th through 12th grade? How many times have the middle schoolers or the freshmen trashed their own bathrooms?
Too many.
So, student trashes his own bathroom. Guess what? I still have a bathroom. Dr. Craig still has a bathroom. You don't have a bathroom because you just trashed your own bathroom. Why would you do that? You kind of did it because it was wrong. And you got a kick out of doing wrong. When the particular example of smoking, look, so I smoked for 20 years. I haven't smoked for 8. I smoked for 20 years. And I spent 19 of those trying to quit. Right? And I didn't smoke in high school. I'm so stupid. I started smoking when I was 18 years old. Which means you know, I can vividly remember it, and I still can't tell you why. You know, I can tell you why a week later I was still smoking, because by that time I was addicted. Why did I ever light one up? Why did I light the second one when the first one was crappy? You know, why does somebody, you know, most people the first time they drink, unless it's just a sip, they feel like garbage the next day, right? Why ever do it again after that? Well, there's something in us. There's like something in us that's trying to pull us off the tightrope. There's like a self-destruct button. Like part of our nature is pulling us in the direction of the anti-human, and we have to pull back. But again, the good news that I'll justify after Christmas in the second semester is the more we build up the habits of pulling back, the more practiced we are at walking the tightrope, it genuinely gets easier. All right. Megan, you stop the video.
Walk around the light a bit, trying to make the pieces fit to a puzzle with a million missing pieces. When I'm feeling fine is when I discover that I'm afraid to blow my cover, and there's something very wrong with this. So slip back in your hole, or get back in your cave. If I'm going down, I'm taking someone with me.